You look for superfoods exactly like the way you look for love, not in places where they tell you will find them, not in hashtags, not on the net, but in real life. See, when it comes to superfoods, what we must understand is superfoods are foods which have stood the test of time. So, if there is any food which you have heard of orally from your grandmother, which is already a part of your cooking tradition and which can be cooked in multiple ways, then that is a superfood. So if you take rice for example, rice can be cooked as a biryani, rice can be cooked as kanji, rice can be cooked into a khichdi, rice can be cooked for everything from shraddh to shadi. So any ingredient which has a wide application, that is a superfood. And you've heard of how to have these wide applications orally from your grandmother. So time tested food, that's the first sign of a superfood. Secondly, versatility, being working for you from shraddh to shadi, that's the second sign of a superfood. The third sign of a superfood is that it is a part of your art and culture. So you will find kahawate on it, you will find songs on it, you will find it used in decorative items like maybe as a rangoli in front of your house, or like a toran on top of your door. So if it's a part of a song, if it's a part of a story, if it's a part of a painting traditionally, then that is the third sign of of a superfood. And the fourth sign of a superfood is that it is always yummy to taste, it is comforting in its nature. So whether it is ghee, whether it is rice, whether it is something as simple as a banana or a nimbu, all of these are really our local foods. They all also come with a local name. They may not essentially have English or even Hindi translations. So we really need to look for superfoods. They are secrets just because they are hidden in plain sight, so that's really the secret, and you now know how to look for them. They're time tested, they're versatile, they are a part of your art and culture, and they're comforting. But at their core, they're really comforting. So you look for superfoods exactly like the way you look for love, not in places where they tell you will find them, not in hashtags, not on the net, but in real life. So rice is something which is again a superfood. Like I said, you can convert it from everything to like a rice soup or a kanji or a pez as it is called in Marathi, all the way to a pulao or a biryani. We also use rice when people get married. Rice has been integral to our culture, to our civilization. India has more than 10,000 varieties of rice. A lot of them are disappearing just because they do not have patronage of communities anymore. So go back to eating the local rice of your region. Cook it exactly like the way your grandmother taught you to. There are some communities that remove water before they cook rice. There are others who retain water. There are fewer more communities which will probably make the water of the rice into another dish. So depending on the tradition of your home, cook your rice like the way your grandmom taught you to, and buy your rice from your local farmer. It also brings new joy in cooking and eating that rice. Well, I think one of the things that has really worked for people is the fact that they're eating more at home. We've used our kitchens much more than before. All of us are realizing that how our kitchen is really the most central entity to our health. The more you cook at home, the better you stay with your health. We are also realizing that cooking is a life-saving skill. If you don't cook, you cannot expect good health or a slim waistline or glowing skin or wonderful hair or whatever else that one is hoping for. So I think kitchens in a way have regained their prominence in our hearts and minds. That's one thing that has also happened. The other thing that has happened, and I hope it will continue to happen in the future, is that we are all also realizing that how running a well-functioning home and kitchen is everyone's job. It cannot be left to one person or one gender. Everyone in the family needs to contribute. When we build homes and kitchens which are more gender neutral, where we have contribution from all genders, that's when we can actually hope for good health. Otherwise, when cooking is an underrated skill, and when you don't have everyone in the family contributing, you eat from outside that much more, you are calling in for food that much more, and the more you eat from outside, the fatter you get. The fatter you get, the more inflamed your body is. The more inflamed your body is, the bigger risk you have of developing even infectious diseases. We've seen this, that COVID has had a larger impact on people who are not in good shape versus people who are in good health. Health is actually something which goes far beyond what you just eat. It's also about your thought processes. So we've had a whole lot of invasions right since, like, I guess right from the time that we know ourselves as a country. The most recent one being, the British invasion. So we have been a British colony or a former British colony for more than 200 years. And when you have been a colony, then what happens is that post-independence, as you get into being a new or a developing, emerging economy, then invariably the rich people of your country begin to associate very, very poor prestige to eating their local native food. So until now, to say that you are cool or affluent or educated or whatever, it really meant going away from your regular roti, sabzi, dal, chawal fare and eating more of the breads and the cookies and the soups and the salads and stuff like that, none of which is local or native, none of which helps you to stay fit. It doesn't help your local economy, doesn't serve your global ecology well either. Now it's about, even if we are talking about eating more vegetables, you will hardly find people eating more of the dudhi or the pumpkin or the karela or the tendli and the likes. It's more about eating the kale and the avocado and the asparagus and the rucola. So it's constantly about wanting something which is not native. But what really helps us, not just us as a country, but all of us as a community across the globe, is for diverse people from diverse regions to keep up with their own native habits. The more local, seasonal, traditional we eat, the better it is for our waistlines, for our economy and for our ecology. And I think if there is one message that the pandemic has taught us, it is the fact that we are all, our lives are interconnected. We are all together in this, across the globe, across the socio-economic divide, across all kinds of divides. If there is a health threat, then it affects all of us equally. But we may need to adapt solutions to our own region, So for us, it's going to be just about eating more local, seasonal, traditional food. That's how we will be able to boost our immunity and make sure that we are able to fight not just this pandemic but every pandemic in the future. So every time I see people copying habits of the West, I want to tell them that, listen, their food habits are very poor. It's not the food habits that we should be copying. Our food habits are really rich. We need to stick it out with our food habits. What we must copy is the footpaths, the cycling lanes, the mass transport, the city planning. That is worth copying because they do that better than us. So what they do better than us, we should copy. What they're doing worse than us, we should really not be copying. from the time that I started working all the way back in 1998, mostly my work has been about getting people to eat, because dieting has become synonymous to deprivation, and when you're deprived of food, you cannot possibly be full with fitness or health or well-being, which is why I call my book Eating in the Age of Dieting, because in the last 20 years what I have seen is people are either depriving themselves of calories, or they're depriving themselves of fat, or they're depriving themselves of carbohydrate, or they're depriving themselves of long hours of food. So that's all that I have seen. I've seen the desperation to stay slim stay the exact same. Maybe people are more desperate today to look slimmer than what they were maybe 15 years ago, but the method is the exact same. People who are depriving themselves of calories maybe in the late 1990s then began to deprive themselves of like fat early 2000. Post that, it's been deprive yourself of carbohydrate, and now it's just like deprive yourself of long hours of eating, eat once in 15 hours, 16 hours, 20 hours, or whatever else that it is. But it's just deprivation, which is why the book is called Eating in the Age of Dieting. Eat local, seasonal, traditional food so that you actually find a sustainable path to health, well-being and fitness. That's really the core of the book.